I tell you, by George, of course.
This is Jerry Beck from CartoonBrew.com, and we are watching Bungled Bungalow, which is the fourth Mr. Magoo cartoon, the second directed by Pete Burness. It was released December 28th, 1950. Look at all the names on the credits here. Just fantastic, famous in the world of history of animation. You know, Grim Natwick, Bill Melendez. I mean, where do I begin? Bill Melendez, who is more famous now for being the guy behind the Peanuts specials. Story by Bill Scott and Phil Eastman. Bill Scott, who later became the writer, co-producer of the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons. He was the voice of Bullwinkle and Dudley Do-Right. Phil Eastman, who probably is a hero to a lot of us from the baby boomer generation, because he was also known as P.D. Eastman and wrote the classic Go Dog Go for the Beginner Book series. But this is where he started in animation, and all of these were the company at UPA at this time. Pete Burness, this is his second Magoo cartoon, the fourth Magoo cartoon in total. But the second one, Burness from here just became the Magoo mogul. He basically directed all of the Mr. Magoo cartoons, well, with some exceptions, for the next few years. And he's a great talent who started at Van Buren, worked for Terry Toons in New York, did animation for Walter Lantz, Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny. You know, he worked at MGM working on Tom and Jerry, and joined in with the fellows at UPA when they got started, and really rose to the top. He was a major producer there by the late 50s. And afterward, when UPA folded in the early 60s, he worked with Jay Ward, directing a lot of the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons, and then became the director of the Captain Crunch commercials that were made in the 1960s. So Pete Burness is really one of the great unsung animators. Never worked at Disney, which is interesting. This is a funny cartoon. You know, Mr. Magoo thinks he has termites, so he goes out to look for a new house. Meanwhile, there's a criminal on the loose who is literally flipping houses by stealing houses and then reselling them in another location. And of course, Mr. Magoo winds up at his own house looking for it to buy. In these early cartoons, it's interesting because they would come up with all kinds of villains for Magoo to confront, but they found correctly that it was funnier to just have Magoo wander into something thinking it was something else, and his reactions to that place and it being, you know, completely wrong. You really had to pay attention to these cartoons. They weren't cartoons you can have on while you're doing something else in the kitchen, or, you know, they were created for theaters, so people were watching the screen.
My name is Magoo. Who's in charge here?
A major factor, of course, of these cartoons is Jim Backus and his amazing voice. He wasn't just a funny voice for the character. He was a radio actor, so he put a lot into it. He did ad-libs, which he just became the character. And I believe his voice, to me, as far as I'm concerned, they're 50% of the film. The other 50% being the amazing work of the artists and animators, the designers, even the music. UPA used different musicians. They didn't have a house musician composer like MGM did or Warner Brothers did. They used different composers for each film. This film was, the music was by Hoyt Curtin. Hoyt Curtin is more well known to us, us who love animation, as the main composer of the Hanna-Barbera themes of the 1960s, and all those famous cartoon themes from Johnny Quest, the Jetsons, and on and on and on. Hoyt Curtin composed those, and he definitely got his start in the animation world doing several UPA Mr. Magoo cartoons, and this is one of his earliest.
Yes. Oh, okay, Sergeant. I'll be here. Yes. Come right over. Goodbye, Sergeant.
Some of the animators on this film, Pat Matthews, Rudy LaRiva, Grim Natwick, and Bill Melendez. Grim Natwick, an animator who goes back to the 1920s, one of the oldest animators working in those days. He died at age 101. Had a great cartoony, fun style.
Sporting proposition? Good, good, good. Here's the, I'll bet this roll against this house that I can make a 4-carom cushion shot first try, eh?
So let's sit back and watch the rest of this fantastic cartoon.
Finger control on the colander. Poppy's hammer hole. Oh, yeah, Sergeant. In the back room there. Go right in.
It's Hot House Harry.
Oh, man, there's a steel and iron constitution. I'll test his metal with a precision. Aha! The house is mine!